So I want to break down the Islamophobia into three pieces. So one is Islamophobia is in how is it used to promote foreign policy. Then we'll look at how Islamophobia is used to promote domestic policies, and then also we'll just look at how things are going on in the election. So one of the first things that comes to mind when we look at the current government is the support for the Zionist entity and its unwavering support to that. However, it's unfair to actually single out the conservatives for this crime. All the political parties running for office today support the Zionist entity, and that is something that they've all gone on the record to say, is that they will support the Zionist entity. However, they do use Islamophobia in order to support that, the Zionist entity, in terms of claiming that that they're protecting the West and against the terrorists and things like that. And by that they mean Muslims. There's also the current invasion of Iraq and Syria that is going on. And this has resulted in Canadians actually bombs killing people. It's funny when they talk about terrorism, but I'm sure those people who were killed by those bombs were terrorized, and it's part of, and the way they sell it is through promoting hatred of Muslims and dehumanizing us as people. So when the bomb lands on them, it's not as if it's a average white Christian Canadian who was killed by such a bomb. However, I think from a foreign policy perspective, I think one of the things that really highlights Islamophobia is Umar Khadr, right? So Umar Khadr, he was a child, and the only he languished the longest out of any of the G8 nations who had a citizen languishing in Guantanamo. As a child, he languished there, and you would say, how is it possible that you don't see a child and you see a monster? And that's again due to Islamophobia. In terms of domestic policies, we have C-24. The conservatives stripped Zakaria Amara of his citizenship, during the election time for a specific reason. Again, promoting how they're tough on Muslims. And it's made people like myself, even though I was born here in Canada, into a second-class citizen. We have C-51, again, the authorizing the spying, the Snowden type surveillance of people, not just Muslims, but also native groups and environmentalists. And also that just in general, all Canadian society, there's a mistake to think that this policy is just for Muslims. Anyone who decides to speak up against the government, this policy is for them, right? And we've seen the Depression. When the Depression occurred, and capitalism has a very weak economic system, despite its dominance, and it's prone to these economic shocks. And when the economic shocks occur, that's when people get on the streets, as we saw with the Occupy movement. And that movement was it wasn't that people got bored and they went home. 9,000 arrests destroyed that movement. So it was finished through physical violence from the state, and they were spied on by similar kind of measures. So this is not just for Muslims, and it's a mistake just to see that issue. And this is indeed, when we talk about our plan, this is one of the things we can discuss about that. But they're just using Islamophobia to pass these draconian measures through. And just on that issue, we should recognize that this propaganda that they're using against Muslims, you'll see behind me a bar graph that looks at the top 5 common causes of death in Canada. What's missing?
Terrorism.
Exactly. So it's you don't see Muslims as a leading cause of death in Canada, right? The leading cause of death is cancer. It's heart disease. These kind of things. And I'll show you in a later slide on how, and in the next slide actually, on how that's so pernicious. The slide after this one. Where Islamophobia is really going to start hitting home for us is when it starts affecting how we practice our deen. Right? So it's one thing that they're just using it as propaganda, as a way to promote kind of policies with other intentions, but now it's starting to affect us as Muslims. So first and foremost was the Charter of Values. The Charter of Values was a way for them to make Muslims into second-class citizens, where sisters had to choose between their livelihood and had to choose between their Islam. So they had to choose between wearing the hijab and the niqab and working for the federal government. And in Quebec, the federal government is quite wide, to work for the hospitals, to work for the for the school, which you would find sisters working there. This was specifically targeting them. So again, now the pressure is being put on us as how we practice Islam. Then we also have the niqab debate. I'm not sure if you've been following the niqab debate, as they say, as it's been widely recognized, and actually Canadians themselves in the mainstream society have recognized that this is complete distraction. Rick Mercer had a program, I'm not sure if you had to see it, but definitely check it out, where he talks about how this is just a distraction through a humorous kind of perspective. And actually, people are showing up to the polls wearing masks, and in protests of this kind of distraction. Also, we had, and this is more of a provincial issue, about the schooling, the education curriculum. Muslims protested, and they actually pulled kids out of class to demonstrate their opposition to the school encroaching on their right to parent. Just as an atheist wouldn't want alien values imparted to their children, Muslims don't want alien values to be imparted to their children. And this is really the way this should be framed, is the right to parent. It's not about anything else other than the right to parent, which should belong to the parents. Also, then we finally had in the Toronto School Board, you had the anti-Islamic groups protesting the right for Muslims to pray at school. However, I think the most pernicious issue that affected us as Muslim was on the attacks on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you may ask, why is that? Like, this is like, if I can't wear hijab, how am I going to go to work? If I can't pray in the school, how is this worse? Because the goal of this is to make us secular. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to us in the Quran, the Jews and Christians will never be happy with you until you follow their millah, their way. Meaning, you look at the Christians, especially how they insult Isa alayhi salam and the other anbiya, and you look at the Jews who do the same, and they want us to do the same with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the first set of cartoons comes out, we protest. Second set of cartoons comes out, the protest gets a little lighter. The third set comes out, and then the protests even get lighter, and even if they exist at all. That shows how we're becoming desensitized, how our connection to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is slowly being sanded away by these constant attacks. And that's why this is the most deadliest attack really on us, because it's invisible. You can't see it. It's coming in your mind. Your dedication to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is slipping away slowly by slowly. And of course, we saw this Islamophobia in the elections. And I live in Hamilton, and I got this card in my mailbox. And I want you to look at the last bullet. Protecting Canadians from jihadist terrorist. Jihadist terrorist, right? Now, I showed you the most leading cause of death in Canadian society. Why is 1/3 of the election campaign dedicated to something that's not one of the top 3 causes of Canadian death? This is what they call dog whistle politics. This is where they use coded things. They talk about jihadist terrorism. Well, what about Ray Bork, who shot up those RCMP officers because of political reason, which is another way of calling terrorism. He's not going to defend the country against that. But this will get votes, right, from the racist people, right, from the evangelicals, right? So that's why this is what's going on. And then also we had this debate, the French debate, where in the debate what happened was and I'll play it towards the end just as a refresher, just before I pass the mic to Anas. But in the debate, they were basically contesting as to who was going to oppress Muslims more. Gilles Duceppe was saying from the bloc, was trying to say that, Harper, why are you just banning the niqab from the ceremonies? I'm going to ban it here, 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 and here. Right? And then Mulcair was saying, though he came across as being positive towards Muslims, he said that he's going to go after the oppressors. Do Muslim men have magical powers to force women to do things? Most of you who are married, can you force your wife to do anything? We're just like any other human being. We have to convince our wife. We have to talk to them. We do that. That's the thing, is that this oppressor Muslim male, that mythical beast that exists, doesn't exist. It's part of the Islamophobia. So even in his statement, he was Islamophobic.